Johannesburg, the city of gold. Although barely 100 years old, it's already a vibrant international capital of business and industry. In the yellow gold mine waste dumps around the city's edge lie the history and dreams of thousands of prospectors who made their way here in the gold rush of the late 1800s. Rural Africa is never far away, but today Johannesburg is known as Little New York. Certainly the pace of city life is frenetic, as the 3 million multiracial inhabitants mix and work together, carving out a new future for South Africa. This youthful city has a statuesque past. With one of the best climates in the world, it's hardly surprising that its citizens are devoted to the outdoor life. Sports facilities here are second to none, and the many gracious parks and lakes dotted around the largest African city south of the equator provide a tranquil alternative to the hectic business lifestyle elsewhere. South Africans of the future are anxious to recapture their place on the world's sporting map after over 2 decades of isolation. And the $100,000 World Open Squash Championships brought together all the best professional players in the world, including defending champion Rodney Martin of Australia.
But sadly, here in Johannesburg, Jansher Khan, possibly the greatest squash player of all times, has announced his impending retirement from the game. A man who has amassed 10 British Open titles and 6 world titles has finally succumbed to a niggling back injury.
The injury that plagued Jansher Khan's career in the last 2 years reared its ugly head again in the second round match against England's Peter Marshall. Leading by 2 games to love, Jansher seemed to be in command. However, Peter Marshall struck back to win games 3 and 4 very comfortably, and it was at this stage, 2 games all, that Jansher threw in the towel. He went 5.5 years unbeaten. His game allied all facets of the game. He was a perfect all-round player. He had power, he had precision, he had pace, he had touch. No one could get near him. At this stage, to take 1 game from Jansher Khan was considered a major, major upset. A great player, and will the world of squash ever see the like of Jansher Khan again?
In the first semi-final, we have Dittmar of Australia, number 2 seed. In the first round, he had his hardest match to date when he took on fellow countryman Anthony Hill. He eventually got through in a hard-fought 4 games, winning 3-1. The second round saw him come up against Gary Waite of Canada, who's promised such a lot on the circuit. He took that, though, in sparkling form by 3 games to love. His quarter-final match was against Rodney Isles, and surprisingly, where we expected something special from young Mr. Isles, Dittmar's power came through and he brushed him aside in 3 games. His opponent, number 3 seed and existing world champion Rodney Martin, had a first round match which stuttered and started, but eventually he got past the Englishman Phil Whitlock in 4 games, before coming up against another Englishman, Del Harris, who in the past has given him some hard matches. His form was now coming through, and he took this one in 3 games. His quarter-final match was an absolute peach by anybody's standards. A great match on the circuit. It went to 5 when he had to beat his brother and fellow countryman, Brett Martin. We joined the match with Dittmar leading by 1 game to love, but trailing 10-12 in the second. Joining me in the commentary box is Mark McLean, the world number 12, and current chairman of the International Squash Players Association.
Took a gamble, and the ball here sat up for Rodney on his backhand drop across the other side of the court.
Not up. Handouts 11-12.
And a cheap point for Dittmar.
We're into the pointed end of this game. This is where every point becomes vital. And everybody's nerves gets a little bit tighter. Markers, referees, and certainly players. They don't want to give anything away now.
The best parts of Dittmar's game from those front corners. Dips his shoulder in. Disguise is superb.
Rodney taking that out of the air like a fly. An attack, counter-attack. What does it produce? Continues.
Defensive lob from
stroke Martin.
That was a big point. That was a big point.
And I've got a feeling this rally, although Rodney Martin gasped for air at the front of the court, I've got a feeling this
And
rally
out,
hurt Dittmar a little bit more than
13-11.
Martin. Moves Dittmar forward. No doubt in Jack Flynn's mind, he was right, a stroke.
So, Rodney within 2 points of levelling the score.
Yes, lad.
Yes, let. 13-11.
As Rodney Martin trips over a size 13 into shoe.
Yes, lad.
Yes, let. 13-11.
I don't know what Rodney's complaining about there. Certainly didn't give Dittmar an opportunity to play that shot.
Yes, lad.
Yes, let. 13-11.
Well, I think both of the boys are asking what's
From the
going
left.
on here.
What's the referee supposed to think when both players think they're being hard done by, Robert?
It's a bit confusing.
Yes, lad.
Yes, let.
It's
13-11.
edgy time now. Edgy time and big point time. Points are at a premium at this stage. This is marvellous stuff. Attack, counter-attack. A fine retrieval by Dittmar, bringing him back into this.
Thank you.
Oh, it's very unlucky for Chris Dittmar. He picked up two amazing balls on Rodney's forehand. Rodney played two
14,
superb
11.
touch drop shots.
Game ball.
Dittmar stretched up there and picked them up. Unlucky to give a stroke away at that stage.
So 14-11. 3 game balls to Rodney Martin.
Yes, lad.
Yes, let. 14-11. Game ball.
That's very tight squash. Very tight.
Down.
This ball's okay. Pickup was good.
Hand out. 12-14.
Well, I
Game
don't
ball.
agree with Jack Flynn. I think the pickup was good. It was tight, but it was good.
Rodney shouted scoop.
Yes, Rodney slotting it away to take the game and even the score to 1-all. Lovely drop shot.
Game
Typical Martin
to
put away.
Martin. 15-12. Games are 1-1.
Well, at 11-7, it has to be said that the big Aussie, Chris Dittmar, is looking very good. He's leading by 2 games to 1. And at this moment, he must feel that he has his opponent on the rack. Remember, the scoring system on the Grand Prix is 1st to 15, so at 11 points, he's 4 points away from home. Remember that if the score does actually get to 14-all, that the player who's receiving is given a choice of 1 or 3. Set 1 or set 3. And there, Chris increases his lead with another point, holding Rodney at the front of the court and driving it away. It looks pretty ominous for him, doesn't it, Mark?
Well, at this stage, Rodney Martin looks dead and buried, but I'm sure that he's not going to write off his own chances now. And Chris Dittmar knows too well the situation of being well in front in a World Open and losing out.
And out. 8-12.
Well, 8-12, 4 points in it. But Chris Dittmar holding the vital game difference, 2-1 up. What's been a marvellous part of this game and every other game this week has been the
Yes, lad.
superb
Yes,
support
Yes,
from the
lad.
crowd here in
He just made it
Johannesburg.
rhetorical.
You can hear them now. They're really
Well, he
getting
just
behind
made
their
it.
heroes.
Well, Well, that's an amazing decision. Neither player can believe that.
8-12.
I think Jack Flynn is about the only man in the building just now would have given a let for that one. Look at this. Rodney mishits this ball and it goes right in front of him, and Dittmar was there waiting.
So it's the referee's decision that counts, and it did there. Rodney.
And out 13-8.
Well, Rodney looks to be suffering from last night's epic encounter with brother Brett. 5 games of superb squash look to have taken their toll now as Dittmar motors on.
And another winner puts him firmly in the drive-in seat.
14-8.
14-8, match ball. This is a tense moment. And Chris Dittmar's not going to let it go. Rodney's fighting to the death, as he will. He's
Rodney
never gonna
Martin
give
is
up.
on his last legs here, and he won't get that
And
one.
there it is. That's the winner, Chris Dittmar. He's taken this first semi-final and marches into the final. And it must be said he played solid squash from
Game
beginning to end.
to
So there we have
Dittmar.
it. 3 games to 1, Chris Dittmar
15-8.
taking the first final position.
He wins by 3 games to 1. 15-5, 12-15, 17-16, 15-8.
When I came out tonight, obviously early in the first game, I tried to prolong the rallies a bit, but it's very difficult to know what to do. You can't change your whole game or your whole makeup just because you think, well, the other fella had a hard match last night, and I was getting a bit bloody mixed up in my own mind. I was trying to play the way I normally play, and then at the same time I thought, well, maybe I should run him around a little bit. But then, as it got longer and longer, I got tired as well, so it wasn't such a great idea. But as I said, it was very hard to know what to do, and it was very, very close in the end, and I was fortunate to come out on top.
The altitude, how much of an effect?
Oh, it's pretty hard. I think we've all found it hard, and there's no denying that fact. But I can't really say any more than that. We're all in the same boat, so it's not such a problem, I guess.
Well, you know the other 2 semi-finalists. Have your choice. You've got Austin Adraga, you have Jansher Khan. A comment on which one you prefer?
Well, don't underestimate Austin Adraga, because I played him a month ago in the Australian Open, and he really gave me a hell of a fright. He's probably the best retriever in the game at the moment. You'll see him tonight, just the way he moves is just incredible. The balls he can retrieve, and it seems to be with ease. And he not only retrieves them, he just gives the ball such a whack and very tight. He really middles the ball and hits it very well. He's got a nice technique as well. So if he gets away early to a good lead and can get some confidence, I just wouldn't underestimate him, that's all.
By preference, come on, I want to name which one you prefer for the next match.
Oh, there's no preference, because I think in a world final it's going to be hard, and whoever it is will be very, very hard, so there's no preference.
In the second semi-final, Jansher Khan has looked like a Rolls-Royce from day one. His first round match against Frenchman Julien Bonnettard was very easy, as was his second round match when he came against young Tony Hands. There was one stutter when he dropped the only game that he has dropped in these championships, but he still took it 3 games to 1. His quarter-final match, when he came up against the fast-moving Sami Alapuro and number 7 seed from Finland, we all expected to be a lot of fireworks with the 2 fastest men possibly in the world. But no, Jansher still cruised through in 3 games and looking very good. His opponent, Austin Adraga, the Spanish number 1, has been the sensation of this tournament. He came through the qualifying rounds into the tournament proper. Having got there, he showed some magnificent skills and talent, eventually securing a quarter-final position against the young Englishman Peter Marshall, the double-hander. What a match it proved to be. But young Austin's skills and style managed to carry the day, and he came through 3-2. We join the second semi-final in the 4th game with Jansher leading 9-6. And as always, sharing commentary with me is Mark McLean. Well, Austin Adraga, 6-9 in this 4th game, down 2 games to 1, and still not giving up the fight. It belies his position, Mark, to think this young man is 33 in the world, and what a tournament he's had. He's still in here competing against the world's number 1. What strength and depth have you got in this belief that you have with these players? Because this is a marvellous effort from this young man from Spain.
No let. Hand out. 10-6.
Well, he might well be ranked 33 in the world, but amongst the professionals, they all hold Austin in very high regard, and he's always been a very dangerous player, and this week he's managed to hold himself together superbly, got his game together mentally, and see the result.
Of course, the big part of his game, Mark, is this movement. He's got wonderful court movement. Am I right?
Well, that's right. He's one of the most fluid movers on the squash circuit today, and he possesses an array of shots which really leave some of the boys a bit astounded at times. And it's just raw talent, really, that he seems to have got everything together, and it's a guy playing at the top of his game this week.
And there's Jansher. His green shorts still driving the ball to the back. He's got respect for the player, but he's still going to let him know he's the world's #1 player. Push him back and forth, up and down this court. Get the feeling he's prepared to do it all night. Because in fairness, Jansher is another great mover, possibly the greatest mover on a squash court in the world today.
Well, watching this game, it appears that both players have just been strolling around the court, but believe me, if anyone wanted to learn how to move it around a squash court, you'd only have to look at either of these two guys. Efficiency, effortless movement. That's the name of the game.
Yes, let. 10-6.
Another rally ended in a let. And there we have Jansher Khan 10-6 up in this fourth game, leading by 2-1. 4-point buffer. It's a big, big buffer at this stage. And you start to wonder, is Austin going to go for a few here, Mark?
Well, he's been patient thus far. Possibly needs to move up the court and take a chance or two at this stage, but he's still holding a pretty good chance at this stage.
The lovely story of the tournament this week has been, of course, the fact that Austin turned up here without any rackets. He completely forgot his rackets, and he had one racket of a new type which he'd never used before. Used it and hasn't stopped. He's had the most successful tournament of his life with one racket. And of course now he wouldn't give it up for, well, a lot of money, Mark.
Yes, let.
There's been a few bids flying in for that racket in question. Certainly is amazing, though, to think that he can pick up a racket and dispatch England #1 Peter Marshall the next day with that racket, having only used it half an hour in practice.
In fairness, he played a marvellous game. Well, both of the lads did, but I think Austin took it when it was there for the taking. He showed us a lovely array of shots. And he's not out of this yet.
Yes, let. 7-10.
And of course, when you get two players of this speed and with this court mobility, you're always going to get lets because they want the centre of that court. And you can only have one guy in there at a time. And really, Jansher's doing a business-like job here. He's looked very good all week, and in fairness to him, he's quietly got on with the job. And there, lovely concealed shot, sucking in Austin into the one corner and driving it away.
And out 11-7.
That was a superb work from Jansher.
12-7.
Score is now 12-7 in the fourth game, and he's got a 5-point buffer.
You see the pickup from Adaraga. Jansher drives that ball just an inch above the tin. Can't pick that one up.
And out 8-12.
I quickly went in to see Austin before the match, and oh, what a wonderful recovery. And a rolled post, and another back wall shot. Oh, this is the raw talent, Mark.
That's the kind of movement we've been talking about.
It's no wonder the crowd love him. Is he going to turn this into an exhibition? And the rally continues. Yes, I wanted to see him just before this match, and For a Spaniard, he's got an incredibly strong Australian accent, Mark.
That's right. Spanish parents, Australian born, and
That angle shot showed, I think, that there's a little tiredness now creeping in, because he would have probably picked that up a little earlier on, and now Jansher moves to 13-8 in the fourth, and the signs are ominous for this young Spaniard. 2 points away now from a final position against Chris Dittmar, and he looks a pretty determined man.
Jansher moves up the court and keeps turning the screw. Really has got Austin moving corner to corner.
But not there, just too much eventually. That wonderful angle, giving Jansher the point and giving him the match point. 14-8. Match ball to Jansher, serving. Now surely this must be too big a counting, even for this young man who's done so well. Match ball being played to Jansher.
Certainly looks like he's drawn a sting.
And the ball goes out of court, and there we have it, the two hands go out, and we have our other finalist. Jansher Khan beats Austin Adaraga from Spain by 3 games to 1.
15, 15-7, 15-8.
I think he's playing very well, because somebody come from qualifier and reaching the semi-final, you know. And I think he's done a very good job, and he's playing fantastic in this event.
I mentioned the support that he's had during this week, but I have to say we picked up a little bit of support for you. How much of a help is it, even when you play as the world #1? It must be great to have support from the crowd like you've received.
Well, it's important, you know, the crowd support you, because you get a lot of benefit, you know, and confidence. And I think I have a lot of support here, and I think I will be more supporting in tomorrow, you know.
You brought up tomorrow, so let me ask you, Chris Dittmar. He's a big, rough, tough Aussie, and he's given you some really great games. How do you feel about playing him again?
Well, I can't say anything now, and I think he's win fantastic game today, and he beat Rodney Martin in the semi-final. And I just say the final will be tough, you know.
Ross Norman of New Zealand was world champion in 1986 and was the man who in that final halted Jahangier Khan's 5.5-year unbeaten run. Ross has an all-round game with an excellent touch, so essential in the execution of the boast stroke.
We've got two kinds of boast, the attacking boast and the defensive boast. The object of the attacking boast is to work your opponent from the back of the court to the front of the court. The attacking boast is considered more a working shot compared with that of a shot played when looking for an outright winner. That is to say, having just played the boast, you're looking for a weak return on your opponent so you can volley your next shot. Ideally, having just hit the boast, you're looking for the second bounce of the ball to die on the neck. What you don't want to happen is for the ball to sit up on the side or for the ball to come out anywhere near the middle. I think a beginner learning to play the boast, my advice to him would be just to really get in there and practice this shot in the routine of basically boasting and driving. He's got to be looking at varying the pace of the shot. He's got to be looking at varying the angle of the shot and just playing around with those two different things to get his boast right. The practice routines for the boast on the forehand side are very basic, very, very important in when practicing shots for squash. You've got the basic one, which is the boast and drive, which most of the top pros practice. They probably practice this shot more than anything else, really just to get warmed up and just to get their eye eye into their practice session. This practice routine is with one person at the back of the court, the other person diagonally opposite on the front court. And the person at the back just boasts it, aiming to get it about 2 or 3 inches above the tin. The person at the front then either plays a drop and then drives or cross courts that shot back. And then that just goes on and on for a good 10 or 15 minutes. On the backhand, your routine is very, very much the same. And all you are doing is really just practicing your backhand boast. In a game, you're going to come across where you're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to have to play various different boasts. And the 3 variations that do spring to mind are the trickle boast, the 3-wall boast, and the volley boast. The trickle boast is played almost as an alternative to playing a drop shot. It's played at the front of the court, and instead of cutting the ball in for a drop shot, you actually just trickle it on that side wall, so it just touches the front wall and then dies, which quite often confuses an opponent of which way the ball is actually going. More often you see this shot only played by top players, but it's such an easy shot to practice and to learn and to master that I'd certainly recommend that the average club player or even beginner learns how to play this shot. As I say, it's a very easy shot to learn, and you do get a lot of rewards from it. The 3-wall boast is played quite often as an attacking boast, looking for, as I say, an outright winner. The ball is almost slammed into the first side wall, then goes up the front, hits the front wall secondly, and then onto the third wall lastly, and you're looking for that ball to die into the neck of the floor and the third wall that it's hit. That takes a lot of skill to do, and you do have to practice that a lot. The volley boast is the boast that during a game you find that your opponent has hit a fairly loose shot, and I think by playing a drive or a low boast, or letting the ball bounce before boasting it, is not going to keep the pressure on him, but by volley boasting it, it is going to work him, and he has to get up to the front of that court to fetch that ball ever so quickly. The importance of the boast in my game is of the utmost importance. I think it's one of my favourite shots anyway, and it's certainly a shot that you cannot get anywhere near. You can't even advance past club level, I think, without having a reasonable boast, and something which you've obviously got to practice for a long time. There used to be a player about 10 years ago, a guy called Ahmed Safwat, an Egyptian guy, and he probably played the best boast in the business, as they say. It was a real working boast. He could float it round, he could play it hard, just many, many variations of the boast, and it used to be almost artistic watching him play this boast. We've all pretty well got the same sort of boast. I mean, as I say, it is a working shot compared with that when looking for an outright winner, as I say. But I think all the guys play the boast very much the same, with just one idea in mind, and that's to get your opponent from the back of the court to the front of the court. It gives me great pleasure to hit a good boast, because I know it's really working my opponent, putting them on the defensive, and then giving me the opportunity to come up, cover the tee, and hopefully volley a weak shot from him.
Best of 5 games. Dittmar to serve, Khan to receive. Level.
Well, here we have it, the final of the 1992 World Open Squash Championships in Johannesburg to a packed audience, and the first point starts the match. Chris Dittmar from Australia, seeded number 2 in the world, in the dark blue shorts, and number 2 seed for this match, against Jansher Khan, the world number 1 from Pakistan. Both players have come through pretty well unscarred through to their finals. They've both lost the odd game, but they've shown very good form this early in the season. Joining me in the commentary box as usual is Mark McLean, the Scottish #1 and world #12. Mark, having a look at these two chaps as they start the early clashes of this superb promised final here in Johannesburg. A couple of points from you about the two characters on court.
Let ball, level from the
As well, they've met many times. But I've got to say it, Robert, that each time gets no less interesting. It's a great clash of characters, different styles of games, and this promises to be another great match.
Yes, of course, with Chris Dittmar, you've got the tough Aussie with the Australian rugby player physique, if you like, who's very, very determined and locked in, playing against Jansher Khan. I think you would agree with me, Mark, probably the best movement on squash court anywhere in the world.
Well, that's right.
One left.
Dittmar, a big guy, but possesses a great touch. Likes to move the ball around, move his opponent out of position, and then pass him down the line. Jansher, on the other hand, prepared to go on all day and all night to win a match. Great mover, economical, as we see.
Chris Dittmar, of course, the young man who's playing left-handed from Australia. Very tough competitor. I spoke to him just before we went on, and he was very worked up for this match. Of course, in all honesty, he's very often been the bridesmaid, never the bride. He's got there, but he's never really won one of the big ones, the British Open, the Worlds, and my goodness me, this man wants this so much, Mark, doesn't he?
Well, he wants it, and there's a lot of other people feel that he deserves it as well. He's put so much in this game of squash. Great ambassador for the International Squash Players Association, and he's always been there and thereabouts.
Start Dittmar, 2-1.
Well, Dittmar 2-1 up first game, serving to Jansher. And as normal, these early rallies will be the boys settling themselves in and starting to get a bit of feel for the ball and the court. And as Chris Dittmar will say, the length of the game. Unlikely you'll see Jansher Khan making that sort of error later in the match. This is just the start of game nerves. They'll soon settle, and then we'll see their fantastic skills burst forth on this court. You know both of these players very well from competing against them, Mark. It's true to say that they're not best friends, are they?
Well, that's right. There we see Chris Dittmar just blocking Jansher Khan out the way.
4-1.
Certainly is no love lost, and they've clashed many times. And it's Jansher that's got the upper hand in past meetings.
Not just a clash of two players, it's also very much, as far as these boys are concerned, an international clash. They almost feel it's Australia versus Pakistan. And you're going to see some sweat going on that court before the end.
Well, that's right.
Ball, 4-1.
It's a notorious Pakistan-Aussie conflict, and I know Chris Dittmar follows cricket very closely, and I think the intensity of that rivalry is mirrored in this clash today between these two men.
Squash enthusiast at this moment in time, the both players you should be looking for is controlling the tee. They'll be looking to play the ball as wide as possible to get their length in and control the match from the front. Of course, both of them very capable of putting the ball away very quickly. Both of them have good front ball games, but you're going to see this attrition for a while until they both settle, and then the short points will come in. Uncharacteristic mistake there by Jansher.
5-1.
Chris Dittmar moves on to 5-1, and already the crowd is starting to choose their champions. And I must say that during this week we've had some fantastic crowds. Oh, Delightful drop there from Chris Dittmar. He's already starting to think about going for them. Probably the 5-1 buffer has led into it.
6-1.
Dittmar again showing touch from the back of the court this time. That ball rolled. Cute angle.
Stroke Dittmar. 7-1, right side.
7-1. He couldn't have asked for a better start than this. Well, it's been a terrific comeback here by
right
Jansher
side.
Khan, bringing the score back to 13-11.
Here we see the drive down the wall from Jansher Khan. Dittmar stranded.
It's been a terrific effort by Jansher Khan, bringing the score back. 13-11, he's gone ahead. 14-11 now.
Game ball.
He's poised to take this first game, and it's a superb effort from this Pakistani. Having been 5 points down earlier.
Let ball. 14-11.
And the tension stays up there. 14-11. Game ball.
Jansher really is moving so sweetly now. He's picking up every ball with ease.
Just a let, Chris is too high for the shot.
Let ball. 14-11.
And the kettle keeps boiling. 14-11. Game ball.
Jansher just seemed to stroll up there for Dittmar's drops, and they were superb, tight drop shots.
Deception from Dittmar, but read by Jansher. This is a good rally. Two terrific retrievals by Chris Dittmar, but Jansher finally puts the ball away to take the first game. 15-11. He did play very, very well there.
15-11.
That's a very ominous ending to that first game for Chris Dittmar. I think really from a movement point of view, you've got to remember, if you're watching Jansher Khan, that he never moves before the ball's actually played. There's no guesswork involved, and that's a great lesson to any club player. Never to move until the ball is hit.
Down. 12-7.
Signs are ominous now. Jansher goes to 12-7. He's 3 points away from the second game. And that would be a disaster from Chris Dittmar's point of view.
Not up.
But still fighting, typical of him. This man would never know when to give in.
This is one of Chris
And now
Dittmar's great
8-12.
shots. Front of the court on the backhand, dips that left shoulder in, cuts the ball into the nick.
Yes, lad.
Let ball. 8-12.
I really think Dittmar can believe quite how quickly Jansher's onto that ball at the front of the court. He just seemed to be waiting for it.
Down. 9-12 left.
And like Jansher, that ball was at least halfway down the tin. And Dittmar receiving encouragement from this crowd, as he has done all week. He's been quite a favourite here.
Yes, lad.
Let ball. 9-12.
Chris keen to hold on to that tee position. Not keen to budge off there and give Jansher room to move in.
few variations on shots here now, both attacking and defending. There's that stretch. And it's Jansher's turn to find the four corners as he's moved around, but he's up to it.
Retrieve from Chris Dittmar.
This is hard work. Remember, we're playing this at altitude. Jansher's almost cruel in his movement around the court and the way he's working Chris Dittmar, and eventually putting it away.
Superb rally. The pace seemed to have slowed a little bit before that, but certainly went up in that rally. Jansher had Dittmar on a piece of string.
13-9.
This reflex volley from the tee position left Chris Dittmar stranded. Crucial point.
And now Jansher standing on 4-point lead, 2 points away from a second game to lead 2 games to love. And a weak return there from Dittmar. Forehand drop into the middle of the tin.
14-9, game ball.
Giving Jansher game ball at 14-9. Wonderful length from Dittmar. But improvisation from Jansher again to keep this rally going. It begs the question, what have you got to do to win points against this man from Pakistan, Mark?
Well, I've got to be honest, the look on Chris Dittmar's face on that last point just said that he was running out of ideas slightly, despairing volley. He really does wonder how he is going to score a point here.
And there it is. Jansher puts the ball away, and the second game with it. He takes a crucial 2 games to love lead at 15-9 in the second.
15-9.
Signs are there, I'm afraid.
8-6.
That cross-court miss gives Jansher an 8-6 lead. He's leading by 2 games to love. And looking by far the better of the 2 players at this stage. Although that he won't be happy with.
Jansher going a little bit too fine on that forehand drop.
7-8.
The ball was tight from Chris Dittmar.
1 point in it. 7-8. Chris Dittmar serving.
You're not helping at all.
Crowd becoming vocal. Well, a cheap point there, and there hasn't been many of those.
This is a sort of period that Chris Dittmar will have been waiting for a long time. Jansher does tend to lapse in and out of the game concentration-wise, and this looks to be one of those periods. As Dittmar managed to break his concentration.
Pick up there from Jansher. He keeps the rally going, although under immense pressure.
Left ball, 8 each, left.
That's a perfect example of just how hard it is to take a point away from this man when he's playing like he is.
Down.
And there. Another cheap one, and there's not been many of those. He's done it twice in the last 4 points.
9-8.
Dittmar coming in 9-8, but 2 games to love down.
If there is a chink in Jansher's armoury, it might be the mental side of it.
Stop. Jansher, yours is a carry.
10-8.
Having looked all over the winner 5 minutes ago, Jansher's maybe starting to question.
give Chris Dittmar new heart to have come back to 10-8, even though 2 games to love down. He'll rise to this. He'll really give it everything he's got. This will become a battle royal now. And there, a wonderful drop shot, producing the error of a non-pickup from Jansher.
This match bearing a lot of similarities to the Leagues Open final that was contested back in February in Cardiff. At some stages of that final, Dittmar totally outclassed Jansher Khan, but Jansher ran out 3-1 winner after raising his game at the end of the match.
And there, Jansher bringing it back to a 2-point gap.
And out, 9-11.
That boast from behind Chris Dittmar, producing the winner. But this is a revitalised Chris Dittmar. He doesn't look half as jaded as he was, what, 4 or 5 minutes ago, Mark? He's back in this.
That's right. It's amazing what a few cheap points can do for your morale.
Let ball, 9-11.
The let keeps the score at 9-11.
Chris will be wanting to squeeze a few errors out of Jansher at this stage. Jansher steps forward on the tee.
Let ball, 9-11.
A lot of sweat without any points to show for it.
Down.
Wow. That attempted drop
10-11.
failing and giving Jansher the point to bring him back to 10-11. 1 point in it, and of course leading by 2 games to love. This is a crucial part of the game.
Well, there was no doubt that was a stroke to Chris Dittmar, but it wasn't that shot that counted.
Stroke
It
Dittmar.
was a forehand volley of
And
Dittmar's
out,
before.
12-10.
An absolutely immaculate tight ball.
What wouldn't Dittmar give for a cheap point here? This stage of the game. And there, a wonderful disguise.
Well, Jansher Khan didn't read this shot.
13-10.
Chris Dittmar, 13-10. 2 points away from getting it back to 2-1. He's 2 games to love down. Desperately needs something now. And he gets it. A weak shot there from Jansher. Lack of concentration. That half volley
14-10
falling
game
well
ball.
short. And game ball to Chris Dittmar. Crowd well behind him at this stage.
Down.
Wow, Mike Pickin has called that down.
Let ball, 14-10.
In all fairness to Chris Dittmar, he was the one that stopped. He knew that Jansher Khan's ball was good. And a crucial stage of this 3rd game.
Down.
Jansher puts that into the tin, and Dittmar comes back with a game to himself, 1-2, but Jansher still leads by 2 games to 1. The World Open final. Well, Mark, at 2 games to love up, Jansher Khan looked odds on to take that, but Chris Dittmar's fought back. What do you think was the turning point in that game that brought him back into it?
Well, I think Chris Dittmar's seen some light at the end of the tunnel eventually. It took the 3rd game for him to see that, but the lapse in concentration, I think, was a major point from Jansher Khan. He seemed to drift out of the match. Chris Dittmar seemed to move forward, take the initiative, and I think now Chris Dittmar's harnessed all his energy. He's looking possibly a good favourite for this match now.
Now, who do you think is going to take this?
Well, you've got to bet against Chris Dittmar, really, but I think the way in which he took that game, there was some light at the end of the tunnel for him. He came back. Jansher Khan looks mentally disinterested in the match now, and I think there's an outside chance the Aussie might do it.
Fourth game, Jansher serving 8-3 and leading by 2 games to 1. Crucial stage, 5-point buffer. He has to be feeling confident at this time.
Question is, can Chris Dittmar claw his way back? He'd be looking for another lapse in concentration from Jansher Khan.
It doesn't look as though it's coming.
9-3.
Signs do look ominous now. There's a weak forehand burst into the tin from Chris Dittmar.
This young man from Peshawar braces himself. They've both got their sleeve rolled up now, and the match is really, really intense.
Net ball, 9-3.
Little shoulder push from the big Australian.
That looked more like an Aussie rules challenge to me.
Not something they play in Peshawar. I think he'll understand the meaning of it. Yes, Jansher, lovely wrist movement.
10-3.
Dominating the tee here, Jansher. Forces a weak return, just a flick of the wrist to a length, perfect dies.
Well, 10-3. Jansher's leading at this moment in the fourth game, and by 2 games to 1.
Down.
Producing another error from the back of the court this time, Dittmar on the backhand drop shot.
11-3.
Dittmar will be racking his brains now. What can he do?
Whoever takes this is going to be the new world champion, and it's a big crown to take, and they both desperately want it.
Down.
But that boast hitting the top of the tin gives Jansher 12-3 lead, and he is looking very good at this time to take this title.
It's just relentless stuff, Robert. The points have just come his way slowly, but it's 12-3 in front, and now looking odds on.
Net ball, 12-3. Right side.
There's a lot of bulldog in this man, isn't there? Does he know how to give in? I don't think he does he? 12-3 or no, he's going to fight to the death.
Fellow professionals know exactly how tough Chris Dittmar is. A never say die attitude, which has carried him through many, many great matches.
Has to be said, if he loses this, Leanne's going to have a quiet dinner at home tonight. There won't be a lot of conversation. And there, that drop going into the tin again moves Jansher on to 13-3. And with a 2-1 lead in games, he's now 2 points away from a world title. Surely Jansher's going to edge this out now. He can't lose from this position. He's got to hold it on. Chris Askin, hand up, indicating to the referee. He thinks there was a scoop.
I'm not sure about the scoop, Chris, but it's a stroke to you anyway, so it doesn't matter. Stroke Dittmar, hand out 4-13.
Well, it's little solace to Chris Dittmar, but you've got to admire the movement of this man. He is still moving so very smoothly.
Up until that point, it had been 7 points in a row to the world #1 Jansher Khan to take this very impressive lead in the fourth game. And there, with Chris Dittmar lunging into the front and missing.
Hand out
Jansher Khan
14-4 match point.
goes on to 14-4 match and world championship point. Crowd settle.
Ball,
Again,
14-4.
14-4, leading by 2-1. This is championship point held by Jansher Khan. Tacks in, Gentle drop. But Chris Dittmar keeps them in their seats longer. I haven't finished with this match, he's saying.
That's a great
And out.
forehand kill from Chris Dittmar.
5-14, match point.
But still 9 match points sitting there. And there we have it. Jansher Khan.
And out. 6-14.
Ironically, it's the first we've heard from Jansher Khan, and he's got 8 match balls and he's still complaining about that one.
Dittmar serving. 6-14 down. Jansher still holding championship ball. And there he takes it, sadly on a stroke. He raises his arms to take the World Championship by 3-1 against Chris Dittmar. Jansher Khan, world champion, world #1, British Open champion. This man has the hat trick. A wonderful exhibition of superb squash. And there we see him hugged by one of his cornermen. In fact, there's his brother, Muhibullah, arms around him, and a very emotional moment. And there you see wonderful caption, lovely moment, and let him savour it. Coming from you, Mark.
Well, it was Jansher Khan on his knees there, but I've got to say it, Robert. Minutes earlier, it was Chris
Jansher Khan
Dittmar
wins
who looked
15-11, 15-9,
as if he was about to be on his knees.
15-6.
Superb performance from Jansher Khan, and Chris Dittmar now must look and say, how on earth can he beat this man?
This is my very big wish, so I keep 3 titles in the row. I have a world #1 in British Open. So this is my big wish to win the world championship. And I think today I done it, and really I'm very happy.
Are we going to be having a little celebration tonight?
Well, I have a lot of fans here, and I will be staying here more next 3 days. And I will be celebrate with my fan for next 3 days.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jansher Khan.